I hate to break the fishing news after Remchuk, but I'd like to speak about the ice hockey.
Congratulations, you're one of the 13 listeners of the Real Life Podcast.
We just traded a migraine in for like an orgasm.
Might want to mark that down.
Yep. All of my projects are on schedule until they're not.
A member of the Nation Network of Podcasts.
About as funny as we're going to get today.
Welcome into episode 203 of the Real Life Podcast. I am Tyler Yaremchuk, and this podcast is brought to you by the fine folks at JAPA Machinery. Whatever you need, JAPA has you covered. If you're sad about the Oilers being eliminated, don't worry. JAPA, because they're local to Edmonton, is sad as well. They're here for you, whether it's emotional support or helping you with all your big machine needs. JAPAmachinery.com. A bit of a short staff. Bagged Milk is on an emotional vacation because he is way too upset about the Oilers being eliminated, and I'm sure Jay and Wanye are as well. Jay, I'll go to you live from the Little Brick Cafe. Was it a rough weekend for you? I know you were out golfing, so was it hard to like get hyped up about your golf trip when the Oilers had been eliminated?
Oh, I was so hyped up. So on game days, I'd wear Oilersnation golf shirts, golfing. I had a whole routine, and then we'd go to a bar. I'd wear a jersey. I was fully activated, and then I'm having, especially the first game on Wednesday. Like the Twitter was so positive and fun, and then I played good golf. It was beautiful weather. I'm riding high, and then Oilers lost. So now I'm a miserable asshole.
The wheels come off.
That needs to go get a donaire and make this donaire shop that's closed open again and make me a donaire so I can go eat my feelings. This trip was an emotional roller coaster because I was supposed to, this was supposed to be a getaway where I could just kind of like have fun and just not be stressed out. And I was left miserable and stressed out for large periods of this trip, all because our beloved Oilers just didn't show up.
Wanye, I'll hand it right over to you to follow that up.
Well, I understand everything Jay's saying. I'm fine. I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. I can't control it. I had a wonderful time. Those 6 marvelous days, I felt alive. If I was in charge, would I be missed at my team coming with that effort? Yes, but I'm not. So whatever. It's fun. I had a good time. Game 2 win was probably the best thing that happened since 2017.
Yeah, I guess. And it did feel good to be emotionally invested in a playoff series once again and get that meaningful hockey.
Would I have preferred they win the Stanley Cup? Yes, of course. Of course.
I'm ticked off because it's not like the Oilers went into this as the scrappy underdog who were lucky to be there. Like they went in as a favorite and they played like shit. And like that's what makes me so mad is that I was so happy for those 6 days of getting Oilers playoff hockey and they pissed it away. Like that's what irritates me above everything.
Well, no question. But I think like especially right now,
they try to get into the first. If they lost out in the first round, I could have lived with that. Now, granted, I bet a lot of money that they're going to win the cup.
Yeah.
But just like they just had to get us to the dance. Like this was over in a blink of an eye.
But if you look at like social media and how some people, bless their hearts, are taking it so badly, like you got to be careful how devastated you're going to let this get you in a time like this where a lot of people are already kind of on edge, right? Like, I don't know what you've seen your Remchuk online. I've seen people being like ridiculously dire with how bad this is affecting them.
No, and at the end of the day, like it's a playoff played in a pandemic year, and we talked about this a little bit before. I felt like there's going to be one team that wins and cherishes this Stanley Cup forever, and then there will be 30 other fan bases who will always go, yeah, but you did it in the bubble, right? And I always felt like that's the way it was going to be. And I think we're going to get that sense a little bit now.
I'm glad they didn't waste a cup run on a year where there were no fans, quite honest.
Well, yeah, of course. But like for me, this is I'm emotionally connected to the team.
Yeah,
of course.
That's a problem that I have. And for me, it takes time to process some emotion. So it's going to weigh on me for a little bit. It also doesn't hurt that I was on a 5-day golf trip and had a lot of fun, and I'm feeling that too. So it's all a big compounding scenario to put Jay where he's in right now.
It is nice. I hate NHL hockey that isn't Oilers involved, right? I can't stand watching third-party teams. I could care less. It's nice having hockey right now, even if it's not the Oilers.
So are you still watching a lot, Wanye, or are you disconnected? Yeah?
all day long, right? It beats being a fucking public health expert, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would prefer to have anybody play anybody than CNN on in Wanye Manor in the stately confines.
Well, I'm going to be sports betting my way through trying to make this a happy playoff season for me now. Now, hopefully I can win some money.
Now, do you think, your Chuck, that all this insanity with the market and like the NHL being in a bubble and how you're going to play a whole season in a bubble, do you think it's going to have any impact in the off season in terms of signings and trades and shit, or is it going to be business as usual?
Well, the biggest difference is going to be the cap's not going up, right? So these teams who went on runs or who potentially got eliminated early, the Oilers, the Penguins, the Leafs, that had their sights on greater things, they might want to go into the offseason and be like, well, we got to make some big changes, but they're not getting cap space. Like, no team is getting that traditional $2 to $3 million boost of the ceiling that helps you go out and say, all right, we need to move out one bad contract and bang, we got $6 million to spend and we're going to find a way to get an impact player. Like, no one's really going to have that luxury this offseason except for like Colorado and maybe the Calgary Flames. Like, I'm not 100% sure what their cap situation's like. So I think this offseason is going to be interesting because will a guy like Ken Holland look at this season and go, we had a damn good regular season, and then when things sort of got weird in the playoffs because of the pandemic, we fell apart. And is he going to go, we fell apart because we aren't good enough and we have too many players who are happy being passengers on the team? Or will he say, you know, this was a pandemic year, everything's weird. When everything was normal, we were a good team. So, like, I don't know what Holland's going to do. Like, are there big changes he should make? I don't know. Like,
well, doesn't every year of contract expiring give you more flexibility as a GM to like move stuff around? Yeah,
but for the Oilers, like, there's not a lot going out. Like, they still have a lot of issues. Like, I'll pull up their Puckpedia quickly here, but Sam Gagner's deal comes off the books here, whatever they were retaining of that, $300K. You know, Brandon Manning comes off the books as well here, and he was a decent little chunk of money.
Brandon Manning didn't work out.
No, it's stunning that
We're
Brandon Manning didn't work out.
Brandon Manning for 30 years.
Basically, the Oilers have $10 million in cap space, but with that money, like, Ethan Bear needs a new deal. Matt Benning needs a new deal. They got to decide if they want Mike Green back. They got to decide if they want Tyler Ennis back. Riley Sheahan, Andreas Athanasiou needs a new deal, and they need a goalie somewhere. Like, the money disappears quickly. They're pretty tight to the cap. So, like, if Ken Holland, like, I'll flip this question. I'll start with you here, Jay. Would you be in favor of Ken Holland making a major shakeup? Like, do you look at this loss to the Hawks and go, there are some guys on this team who don't bring it, who don't do enough, and they need to be moved on?
Well, yes, you always have to look for those holes and try to replace it with someone who wants to compete. So, yes. The question is, if it's something big, who's going out the door? And to me, it's probably going to have to be Larson or Nurse.
I think that's kind of the consensus.
Yeah, if you're doing something big to shake things up.
Would you at all be worried? Like, so, I mean, we always hear every offseason how when the Oilers don't go on a run that, clock's ticking on Connor. Like, eventually Connor's going to get fed up with this. They took some positive strides. Would you be worried if trading a guy like Darnell Nurse, even if you find a deal that you look at and go, that makes us a better hockey team, would you be worried about trading one of Connor's quote-unquote boys out?
I wouldn't make a move. I wouldn't change a drop of paint in the dressing room unless Connor McDavid signed off on it in triplicate.
I agree.
Connor McDavid is the general manager of this team with the assist to Ken Holland.
I think I think Connor is a guy that if he thinks it makes the team better, he would be on side with it. If he thinks it does,
of course. And I don't think that Connor McDavid is getting sick of Edmonton Oilers hockey. I think Connor McDavid's getting sick of losing. Yeah. And Connor McDavid makes it his primary mission in life. Connor McDavid can't be Connor McDavid unless he is Connor McDavid with the Edmonton Oilers in his brain. That's where Gretzky is. Blah blah blah. Right? Like that GQ interview where you're watching them, you can see how Connor's like, I will be next Gretzky. And next Gretzky left Edmonton at 4 cups. I don't think that he is going to consider his career complete until he solved the problems of the Edmonton Oilers. If he wins a cup and then bounces, maybe, kind of like LeBron.
Yeah.
But I don't think Connor would do it until he knows he's the franchise. He has a big contract. He's signed long-term. I think people make up that he doesn't want to be an Oiler, but he's done everything he can to prove he wants to, including willing his knee back together.
Yeah, and I do think McDavid, like those elite athletes, are always very aware of what their legacy is. And I think for a guy like McDavid, when you're at that level of your sport where the individual trophies are always going to come, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. He's going to be considered one of the best ever. Would he ever want that dark cloud over his career of, but he had to leave Edmonton to get it done? I think you're right on that, actually, Wani. I think you're bang on. Like, I think he's the type of guy and the type of high-end athlete that sits there and goes, I got to finish this job.
Yeah, well, and it's like when Peyton Manning went to the Colts, right? They were laughing stock of garbage land, and then all of a sudden they started to turn it around. And I think with a guy like Connor, like he knows that Edmonton's franchise was in disrepair before he shows up. He knows better than anybody every moment of Oilers hockey since he got here. He can play it all in his brain, and I think for him to triumph over the challenge, it's win as an Oiler captain and win multiple times. And if people are like, you want to leave Edmonton, he gets all prickly about it because, as we see, he's a pretty driven and stubborn dude.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the kind of guy to wake up one morning in year 3 of his new contract and be like, no.
Yeah, no, it's about your legacy, and winning, being a multi-cup winner as an Edmonton Oiler is a much, given where he started to where he took them, is a much more powerful story than him leaving to then just go to a powerhouse and just making them even better. Like this is the story of Connor McDavid coming to Edmonton and restoring it
Connor
back
McDavid
to its glory days.
Is the Edmonton Oilers in Connor McDavid's mind, and thank God he is, right?
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at that series against the Hawks there, like, what was really frustrating too was like McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins had really good series. Like those three brought it. And I think where it would get frustrating for those three is when, they're putting up 7, 8, 9 points each in 4 games, and the rest of the lineup has like 2 points, maybe.
Okay,
right?
but like it's like, Connor has no help. Okay, he is the second highest scoring player in the league, Leon Draisaitl. Okay, but other than that, they have no help. No, they have the Nuge, right? Like, it's not just Connor plus an AHL team. He does have a supporting cast, but they do have to work their way down and get value contracts that bust asses, right? I don't know where Cassian was. I don't know where Jujar was, but we needed them.
Oh, yeah, the Jujar experiment is over.
Yeah, you're done with him?
I want to love him.
One hit between the two of them. If one guy had gone out and just flattened some fuck, I guarantee you it would have jarred the team.
I think so.
100%. Look when Connor nailed that guy in the San Jose game.
But I also think that when we say like the Oilers were very emotionless, correct? They were very flat.
They were.
Yeah.
I think that's partly a product of having no fans, to be totally honest.
Yeah, but
Chicago, other teams are showing up though.
I know, but like old vets, right? Old vets that for the first time in their life are healed and rested to start playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. And it takes a team like Chicago and de-ages them 5 years, whereas the Oilers don't have that muscle memory of how to behave in the playoffs to grind through. And they're going to run largely on emotion as a young team. Hard to get amped up if you're Cassie and if you can hear a fucking mouse fart in section 208 mid-stride in the game.
Yeah, but with Cassian, like, he's about to be getting paid real money here, like over $3 million. So, and a big part of his role is being that emotional spark. And he didn't. Like, to me, it's like, I don't want to make excuses for this team because you know what, Zach Cassian? You're about to get $3.2 million. And the big thing is, Cassian's the guy you love having when the playoffs come around. Well, the playoffs came, and we did not. No one enjoyed having Cassian around, whereas usually the other team should hate having Zach Cassian on the ice. And he was just such a non-factor. And like same thing with Darnell Nurse to an extent where you go, those gritty defensemen like Nurse who are tough will beat you up. You want those guys on your team come playoffs. And Nurse didn't have a great series. And he didn't have a great games 3 and 4, I should say. Like, that's what's most frustrating to me is I don't want to sit there and be like, no fans could be why, or, the Oilers had more pressure as the top seed, or it's a pandemic year. Like, I really don't want to make excuses for this team because I just think they dropped the ball bad.
I think there's a difference, and that's fair. There's a difference between making excuses and saying, why did they lose, right?
Yeah.
And why did they lose has answers, and are those excuses? No. And at the end of the day, those answers are either sufficient to keep the organization on the same path, or you have to change people out. But the big cornerstones, right? Like, to be honest, when I look at the D, I feel like Larson got hurt, right? He blocked a shot. And then Klefbom, he went through, correct? He was okay.
Yep.
Benning got hurt.
Benning played the whole series.
The whole series.
Yeah.
No, who else? Wasn't there another D that got hurt?
No, it was just Larson.
Just Larson? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I didn't think that Nurse played great, but I don't think it was his fault they lost. The goaltending was shady. Yeah,
the goaltending wasn't great, and I wonder what they're going to do there. The other area that actually surprised me a bit, like Dave Tippett had a tremendous regular season, and he is a big reason why the Oilers were the 5 seed. But I thought Dave Tippett almost got out coached in that series. He didn't make. There were no adjustments. Like I was asking for it. I wanted the Nugent Hopkins, Yamamoto, Draisaitl line back together. I thought that trio was their best chance to win.
You can't have one good line. I'm like, that line that we just described doesn't contain Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
You have 2 slots.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
So I think there were some moments where Dave Tippett wasn't at his best. I thought starting Mike Smith in game 1 was a mistake. And I thought some of the work with the lines wasn't his best. But like, I'm still very, when you try to get a big picture perspective on this whole thing, the Oilers of now compared to where the Oilers were a year ago, which is they now have Leon Draisaitl, who could be the league's MVP. He took another huge step forward when we thought it wouldn't even be possible. Most people thought he was taking a bit of a step backwards, if anything. He took a big step forward. Kyler Yamamoto went from an AHL player to a top 6 winger, and I think he proved in that playoff series, although he didn't get on the board, I think he is a legit top 6 winger. Ethan Bear proved he's a legit top 4 defenseman. Caleb Jones proved he's an NHLer as well. Like, there were a ton of positives from the last 12 months around the Oilers when you compare to where they were when Chiarelli left, right?
I think the Oilers had a tremendous... Has Chiarelli only been gone a year?
Well, it's been 18 months now, yeah.
Good gravy. We're in much better shape. The Oilers had a great season, followed by a pandemic, followed by a terrible play-in series against the team they should have beat. That's the story.
Mm-hmm.
When you put it like that, there really isn't a reason to be mad or freak out.
Wow, I don't know. I would think not freak out, but every offseason we want to incrementally improve at all positions, right?
Yeah.
And like the Oilers, is Darnell Nurse the thunderous Chris Pronger type we need him to be? I don't know. Do we have to pay him $9 million a year? Some crazy shit? Probably not, in my mind. Is Ethan Bear going to be an Oiler for a long term? Yes. The changes he made in his career in the last 18 months are impressive as fuck.
They're unreal.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll play for a long time. He's durable. He doesn't seem to get out of position a lot, right? He's like wristing shots to the net and doing shit. He could be like 36 and still an Oiler. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think the goaltending, that's where we need to do a big change.
And I wonder what they can do, because like, do either of you think Mike Smith's going to be back?
I would thank him heartily for his service and wish him and all his children the best. And
it's tough. Like it's because you got to think about the money side of Mike Smith, right? Like, I guess maybe he can't command too much next year. I think we might have to try to, unfortunately, ride Koskinen and try to. We don't really have anyone in the system ready to take a step.
I think is good. I think Koskinen's good.
He needs
overall.
a partner.
I just think he played shitty against the Hawks.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad with Koskinen, except when he gets fucking turned around in net and his butt's facing outwards, or when he goes for one of his skates. Then I don't get too thrilled with Koskinen. But overall, I think he's fine.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. And it's also like a very, very short offseason. Like, we're going to blink here, and especially because it's summer right now, we're going to blink. It's going to be September. The Stanley Cup will be handed out by the end of September. And then it's pretty much draft early October, free agency right after. The hype around that usually lasts for about a week as well. And then by the time you get to December, we're pretty much getting right back to camps reopening and the Oilers being back on the ice. So that is the nice part here about this play-in tournament coming back, is it gave us some hockey, and it is a relatively short turnaround to the next season.
So how does this work then, Yaremchuk? Are they going to have, I assume that you know everything and that you're also a public health official. Mm-hmm. Are they going to do it all in the bubble again next year?
You took the words out of my mouth. That was my next question. I don't know what they're doing. Like, on one hand, you want to sit there and be like, well, by December, if they start the season late December or right at the beginning of January, like, things could be better. Maybe they could be flying around to different cities and doing that kind of stuff. And maybe there aren't fans in all the buildings, but, maybe they're just playing in their home rinks and cruising around. But then there's a part of me that goes, this is not going to be gone by December.
No. There's no fans, if you can't have fans, then there's no point in being able to play in your own home rink. Like they're going to have to set up the same thing. Now, maybe what they do is they set up 4 bubbles or something like that. I don't think you have to divide the league in half.
Sorry, Jay.
No, I'm just trying to think out loud because you have to, maybe have like a one-time crossover where half the teams from each bubble shift over, so you can have your East-West crossover games, and then there's just that one move, that one time.
I think they have to run the entire NHL out of Canada, right? Yeah. That's proven. I don't think by December the delta between U.S. and Canadian cases is going to, have, right?
Yeah.
And then if you are living in a bubble and you can't go around, why have 5 bubbles, right? Why not consolidate in 2 cities again and have 2 camera crews, not 4 or some shit? And I think you're going to have a hard time getting people to move in between countries come November, December.
I think for the lifestyle, the bubble would probably have to be in the States. So they don't have to endure a winter like that's all
tough.
the teams.
That's tough.
I know it's tough. But like, I think a place where you might have a chance to pull it off is like maybe in Arizona.
But their cases are so high, man.
Yeah.
But if it's a bubble, then it's irrelevant.
Well, yes and no. If you have 30% of the community, like you can't do a bubble where all the support staff stay in the bubble too, right?
The NBA's made it work in Florida.
But that's because they have Disney staff.
Yeah.
Disney staff oftentimes live on site, right? So there is a lot of barracks and shit or other hotels and stuff. I'm with you though that like if you have to be in a bubble for 6 months or 7 months, you want to be like on a beach or something so you can at least not be cooped up in your hotel room for an Edmonton winter. But it may be that an Edmonton winter is the safest place to be in North America.
It's going to be real interesting because the NHL did so much shit right setting up this bubble, and they usually don't do a lot of stuff right. So I'm torn on the whole, will they do this right and, find a way to get a bubble set up for next regular season with the idea of halfway through the year or maybe for the playoffs, we could get everyone back into their home rinks because there's a vaccine and shit's back to normal or whatever. But there's also...
You know what? The mall should do like a Fight Island type pitch to the NHL, Jay, and be like, bring all your families. We've retrofitted the rink to be NHL grade. We have a second rink in town. Everyone lives in the mall. Everyone gets to go to the water park. The mall has no customers, right?
Free
Imagine just all NHL families. Everyone gets a theme room for 8 months. You're still in space.
Oh, so it's gonna be a long grind. Hopefully, there's some advances in all this, but I guess you got to plan for the worst.
Yeah, and I think they do. So, like, the NHL did a great job with this. They mess up a lot of stuff. So there's a part of me that even though they did a great job with Bubble 2020 here, I'm like, man, it's still totally within possibility that the NHL finds a way to fuck up the next stage of this, which is getting next season going, which feels like it's going to, I mean, it's a short time away, but it feels like it's going to be an eternity away once we finally get there. I mentioned the draft coming up in October. I want to get you guys' take on the draft lottery happening tonight in just a second. And actually, for most of the people listening to this, you already know the results because it's happening at 4 o'clock on Monday. Also, in about 15 minutes, we're going to be joined by one of our new sponsors of the show is Oddsshark. And Scott Hastings is one of their experts. He's going to join us for the last basically 10 minutes of every single Monday episode of Real Life. And we're going to chat a little bit about sports betting with Scott and get a lot smarter because of it. But today, draft lottery, 4 o'clock. Your reaction if the Oilers win the first overall pick will be what?
Oh, I'll be it'll be twofold. Like supreme excitement, mixed with a little bit of, when I say disappointment in the fact that like, here we are again. But you know what? Fuck everyone. Let's go Oilers and let's piss off everyone. And that will give me a lot of joy.
5 first picks overall is the new dynasty, Jay.
That's right. And this guy is going to be shit hot.
Tell me about him. I don't know anything beyond he has Jack Eichel's complexion when he flaps his arms.
Oh, he was dominant in World Juniors.
To what end?
Yeah.
Where's he from, first of all?
Quebec.
He plays in Rimouski. He's following the same pedigree as Sidney Crosby, except for they're from two different hometowns.
Yeah, so came from Rimouski, basically spent the last couple of years shitting all over the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He's a left winger, natural winger, so he would just like, that's the thing you want with Connor too, right? Like, you're searching for that goal-scoring left winger. He's got some size to his game as well, 6'1", basically 200 pounds. This year with Rimouski, he put up 122 points in 52 games. He also had 10 points in 5 World Junior games, even though he was basically a year younger than everyone else playing in the tournament. He's a dynamic playmaking winger who has sort of that power, those characteristics of a power forward where he'll get his nose dirty and go to the net. And I think that would fit in perfectly with Edmonton. It would be, and I saw this laid out really nicely on Twitter, like the tiers of the teams in the draft lottery. So there is the they probably deserve it tier, which is the Minnesota Wild. And then after that, it was the who gives a shit tier with the Florida Panthers, the tier of teams that would suddenly be very, very good if they won it. And that was the Rangers, the Jets. And then right below that, it was the internet has a complete meltdown if they win it. And that was the Leafs, Penguins, and Oilers. But I mean, Twitter would lose its fucking mind if any of those 3 teams win it.
It just, so here's the thing. I really want it to be the Oilers, and I really don't want it to be the Leafs.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus amongst Oilers fans.
And everything after that, I can kind of live with. Even if he goes to the Penguins, I can live with that. Now, do we find out? So we find out if we are the ones that draft first, but do we find out where our draft position ends up, even if we don't get first overall?
Yep. So there are,
and I'm asking on behalf of Leafs fans because the Oilers are going to win.
So basically, from Edmonton's perspective, they are either picking first, 14th, or 15th. So if the Penguins win the lottery and select first overall, Edmonton will pick 15th. If Edmonton wins, they'll be first. If anyone else wins, they will pick 14th, is how I understand this to work.
Now, just a random question, because I've seen it proposed on Twitter.
Yeah.
I know this kid's a generational talent, but with the nucleus that we have, would you be open to trading the pick if it meant dumping some cap space and getting another pick in the first round and say two roster players that can provide value in, say, the 4 to 9 range of forwards?
I wouldn't even really consider it unless the offer was so amazing that it makes you drop everything, which then you need to think about it. But the fact is, if this guy can step into the NHL and immediately be an impact top 6 winger, which a lot of scouts say he will, no problem. They say he's kind of just a little blip below Matthews in terms of the rankings of these number 1 overall picks. So if he can step in right away and play on McDavid's wing and score you 30 goals, then you're getting him on his entry-level deal with bonuses is $3.5 million. That helps you so much when building this team.
Okay. What if? I think we should. I'm just saying this for the sake of conversation. I think we should probably keep him because he would be 97 shooter, day one, the minute he steps on the ice, which is dead sexy.
I think he would.
We also know, but the thing is,
jacked.
I know, but the other thing is, though, the reality is that we could be in a Maple Leaf scenario in 3 years where you've got Connor at 12.5, Leon 8.5. And then Lafreniere would have to make $15 million or something crazy like that. I'm thinking of avoiding that. What if you could pants the Florida Panthers and give the pick for their first round pick and Alexander Barkov?
Yeah, but then you're in cap hell right now, right?
No, because he's $5.9 million.
I don't know if Florida would even I don't know. Barkov's legit. That would probably be a tough sell.
I'm just throwing shit out there. That is.
Well, you're not authorized to pull trigger on this deal if your MChuck approves.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, you're in your MChuck already. Here.
Let's get the paperwork over to NHL head
office.
If
we win the pick, if we win the pick, it is hard to not say that the Oilers are guaranteed to win a cup in the next 3 years. And probably be in the cup finals the next 3.
I think what you do is probably just a couple of there's probably some harder decisions throughout your roster if you win this. I don't think you trade Lafreniere, but I think the hard decisions are when
Nuge.
Yeah,
Nuge.
I was going to say it's Nuge. Is probably a real tough choice to make. And with Lafreniere, you're going in 3 years. If he scores 30 goals a season and all of a sudden you're in a Leafs situation where it's like, fuck, how can we afford to pay this guy $11 million? When does he have more value? Right now is the presumptive number one pick, or in 3 seasons when he's just ripped home 30 to 35 goals a year and looks like one of the next great goal scorers, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
no, you're right.
It's
just one, but I'm saying, but it also opens up, by doing this, it also opens up cap space because maybe we can shed
Neil.
Maybe you get Neil and like something else, just thinking that this is where the cap space world just fucks everything around. It makes you like think about weird situations because cap space is such a premium to be able to have any error to try to make any kind of changes. But you're right. Like you take him and you figure out the rest.
Yeah, and the other thing too, he's exempt from the expansion draft, which would be like huge,
which is huge. That is huge. Like our first 2 lines, if Lafreniere is an Oiler, will be fucking unbelievable.
McDavid, Lafreniere, Cassian, and then you got Nuge with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. And then even on your third line, like if you bring back like Athanasiou and your third line is Athanasiou, Sheahan, and Archibald, like that's a good third line too. Like the Oilers forward group would just be stupid. Yeah.
And then we can shake up the D a little bit and open up some room there, maybe sign a goaltender. That's the other thing. Like, who's a free agent goaltender? Like, what's the? I know. Puck. Part of Puckpedia tweeted out that list, and I don't want to pull up my phone and scroll through because I know it'll take me a long time. But
the big names are Robin Lehner, Braden Holtby, and Jacob Markstrom. I think it's kind of assumed that Markstrom's going to go back to Vancouver, and they're just going to somehow find a way to get that done. Lehner's the big question mark because he's in Vegas, and they have Fleury, and no one really knows what they're going to do. And Braden Holtby probably done in Washington, but he's 30 years old, and I think he'll get overpaid somewhere.
Yeah, no, you got to let him go.
When it comes to the Oilers, like if you want to talk about upgrading their goaltending quickly before we get to Scott Hastings from Oddsshark, the names that really interest me, Thomas Greiss, New York Islanders. He's a guy who's had some really nice numbers over the last couple of seasons, and I think he could be a bit of an upgrade. Pittsburgh has a situation going there with Jari, Murray, and Casey DeSmith. I wonder if one of those guys shakes loose via a trade. And then the same thing with the New York Rangers, where they have Lundqvist, they have Alexander Gorgiev, then obviously Igor Shesterkin. I don't know how to fucking say it. He's going to be their starter.
Here's the beauty. If Hank decides not to, he's got a no movement clause.
Yeah.
If he says he's staying put, that almost forces New York's hand.
Yeah.
And that could open up something real nice.
What if Big Bang Hank's like, I want to go to Edmonton for 2 years and win me a Stanley?
Fuck, he costs a lot of money.
He costs a lot of money.
How much?
And I think
$8.5 million.
His best days are way behind him. You got to get. We need a goalie who can perform, because given what we're paying Koskinen, we need a $3 million goalie.
That's actually kind of why I think Mike Smith might end up back here next year. Not that I'm the world's biggest Mike Smith fan, but if you go to him and you're like, hey man, like your family's already here, there's a ton of goalies on the market. Like that market is flooded. If they went to Mike Smith and they were like $1 million with the potential for $500K in signing bonuses, and were really your only shot to play in the NHL, he would almost be forced to take it. And that could be a way to save money if you think Mike Smith has one more good season in him.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question. Electronic Jordan on Twitter. Am I saying that right? Yeah, Electronic Jordan. He's in our fantasy hockey league, I believe. Our fantasy hockey pool for the playoffs. He sent us a question. He said, if the Oilers can't win, which team do you want to see Lafreniere land with? So your options are the Rangers, Panthers, Penguins, Jets, Predators, and Wild, and then obviously the Leafs, but I know none of you are going to pick him.
I picked the Leafs.
Really? You'd rather see him, you want him to go to the Leafs if it's not Edmonton?
Yeah, man. I want to watch the world burn. I want the Leafs to get really fucking good, and then they meet the Oilers in the finals, and then Connor goes around every Leaf and finally goes by Matthews skating backwards with 1 foot in the air and scores top cheddar, and Matthews cries so hard his mustache falls off. That's what I want.
For me, yeah, like if you went to just somewhere where it's not going to bite us in the ass, so like Florida, everyone's like, maybe you can go to Minnesota and they can suck the offense out of them. I don't know.
Winnipeg would be kind of fun. Like they're in the Western Conference and all that, and Winnipeg would be an absolute juggernaut. But I feel like there's not a lot of hatred from Oilers fans towards the Winnipeg Jets. So have you seen? No,
I quietly cheer for Winnipeg just because, like, they had their team taken from, they got them back. Good people, humble fandom. Like, you can support that.
Yeah,
underdogs. Yeah, no, I can support that, but they just become more of a weapon.
Yeah,
and that's the scary part for that. So I just don't want to have to face that too much.
Last topic I want to get to before we chat with Scott Hastings.
Previously on Big Brother.
Full disclosure, I have not watched a single episode of it yet. It's on my PVR, but I'll get to it right away, hopefully by the time we record our next podcast. Wanya, you said you only watched a little bit of the premiere?
Yeah, I watched until it was time to flip over to the Oilers game, and then my mind went blank until 5 minutes ago, really.
Jay?
Well, I was worried that it was going to be talked about, so I got up early this morning and watched the first 2 episodes.
So then without spoilers, tell me what I should be expecting from this season of Big Brother based on what you've seen so far.
I'll go first, Jay. Hold on, let me go first. What you can expect is all the party boys and girls of yesteryear coming back older. It's like, I used to be crazy. Now I'm a biotech executive. I used to be crazy. Now I'm a blah, blah, blah.
They've aged everyone's age. You know what you can expect, Tyler? The unexpected. They've got some spins.
Okay.
So I didn't get into Big Brother until season 8. So that whole Janelle thing, I've heard of her. I never saw her perform in a season. And I know she's a strong player, so she's very interesting just because everyone's scared of her because it's Janelle. So learning more about these people. The guy I am the most interested in is that I think his name is Kaser.
Yeah.
So he's OG. So I knew nothing about him. If that guy can stay around, he is fucking dangerous. Like in a good way. Like that guy is smart.
And don't underestimate that little Elfie guy who looks
Ian?
like DJ Quail or whatever.
Ian? The guy who won before?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
he won, yeah.
Surprised me and pulled it off. But so I won't get too much in it, but they've got a unique spin to complicate things as always. And it's called The Safety Room, and I'll let you guys watch and digest that. But it's just good to have it back. There's a couple people. There's someone from a season that she was in that I watched and I don't even remember. It's that Keisha.
I don't know.
They showed her have like a crazy epic meltdown, and it was the first season with Mr. Spectacular.
Right?
I don't know if she got kicked out, but it was like her birthday and she snapped at everyone, and I don't know.
Oh, wow.
But I'm like, I thought that would be memorable. Evil Dick's daughter's in it.
Mm-hmm. She looks different.
I think it's for a third time. But yeah,
they brought Evil Dick out. Did you watch that season, Jay?
Yeah.
When there's like, what's his daughter's name again?
Danielle.
Yeah. Which is like, oh, it's my dad. I haven't talked to him in 3 years. And he's like, surprise! I was like, this is a great show. This is just a great show.
You know who I love who's back? Is Enzo, the Meow Meow.
Oh, that guy.
What is that guy talking about 99% of the time?
Around because he's so dumb.
Wasn't he the one in his season who like intentionally got himself voted off because he thought he'd get to come back with a power?
No.
Was he the guy that when they were going in, she's like, "Who are you doing this for?" He's like Danny Bones or something. And she's like, "Who's that?" He's like, "My father."
Oh no! Wasn't that one guy from?
That's like
Boston?
the Brooklyn guy who got divorced.
And then that might have been him. That might have been Enzo, but he calls himself the Meow Meow.
Yeah,
He thinks he's a mastermind, and I don't actually think he is. But he's so lovable.
All right, I got to table the Big Brother talk on you guys here. We're going to quickly take a short little break here, hear from our friends at JAPA, and then we are going to come back with a nice interview with Scott Hastings from Oddsshark.
Have you got holes to dig, earth to pack, and roads to build? Then you need to call JAPA Machinery Group. Does your equipment need a service? You can't fix stupid, but here at JAPA Machinery Group, we can fix everything else. With a full range of parts to keep your equipment running smoothly. JAPA Machinery Group is a family-operated and Alberta-grown business. Here to help build a bigger and better Western Canada. Give us a call or visit us at japamachinery.com. JAPA Machinery Group. Join the family.
All right, there you go. As always, we are brought to you by JAPA Machinery. Make sure you check them out. And now we are going to a new segment we're doing. I'm excited for this because I'm an absolute degenerate. I know Jay is as well. We welcome in Scott Hastings.
Aspiring.
Aspiring. Scott, how's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good. It'll be fun. Oddsshark, new partner of the podcast here. They've been a partner of Oilersnation and the Nation Network for a while here. But for those who don't know what Oddsshark is, since this is our first hit, I figured we should have you kind of explain it. When people go to oddsshark.com, what should they be expecting?
Yeah, basically our website is for the beginner bettor and just to give them all the betting information, anything from the day's game lines, betting odds, as well as futures odds. And just if you have general questions of like, what is a parlay and what is a money line? We have all that information. And then in a lot of our articles, we'll also have picks to help guide you, although we may not be hitting at 100%, but we do our best here.
Looking back through that first round of the NHL playoffs, and that's where I'm going to start with our conversation here. There were, a lot of the high seeds lost out. Look at the lottery tonight. It's Pittsburgh, it's Toronto, it's Edmonton, all in there. In terms of a sportsbook perspective, which one of those upsets was sort of the most stunning?
I'd have to say it has to be the Montreal over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was a team that I had as a sneaky futures play to win it all. And on Sydney's birthday and everything, they got bounced by the Habs. Yeah. So I think that was one of the ones that was probably one of the bigger upsets. I think there was a lot of hesitation on the Leafs-Columbus series because of Columbus last year over Tampa Bay. So although Toronto's a heavily bet team, so I'm curious what the numbers would have been there. But I think the Montreal-Pittsburgh, because everyone had Pittsburgh. I think Sportsnet had a staff pick thing, right? And they all picked Pittsburgh in 3 or 4, and then rough scene.
You mentioned Toronto as a heavily bet team. Where does Edmonton come out in terms of how much public money gets put on them? Because we just saw it with the crazy 50-50s we had in our city. How much this city likes to put money behind their team. Where does Edmonton kind of rank it there in terms of how much their fan base likes to bet on their team?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty high number. I don't have the numbers for sure, but most of the Canadian markets compared to the American, Canadian markets over the American markets are bet on a lot heavier. And of course, we just back our own teams for better or for worse. We just of course they can knock down Tampa Bay, no problem. Take them on the puck line, and it not always the brightest choice, but we do it anyway.
Now, Scott. Oh, sorry.
No,
now, Scott, as a guy who made a bunch of money off Columbus whipping the Maple Leafs,
good man.
And losing a bunch on the Oilers, but for some reason I never bet too much on the Oilers because if they lose, it just hurts way too much. So I went super heavy on the Columbus series. What's the best value series in your opinion here in the next round?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I was thinking that question was coming down the pipe. I'm looking at Vancouver over St. Louis all day. The Blues have looked really shaky, and I look at Jordan Binnington, and he's one that. When did he break in? 28 years old, I think was last year. He breaks in, and then he's got a north of 4 goals against average and 3 losses. Well, he only had 2 losses, but St. Louis lost all 3 of the round robin games. And that Vancouver team is sneaky good. Elias Pettersson is a stud, and Quinn Hughes 6 points in 4 games. That's an underdog play that I think is really, really sneaky.
How many underdogs do you think are kind of going to come out on top here? Just because, Brad Marchand even kind of came out and said they felt like glorified exhibition games, those weird sort of round robin seeding games. And meanwhile, Vancouver's been playing meaningful hockey for 6-7 days now. All those other teams that advanced in the qualifying round have. Are you maybe going to be leaning a little bit more towards some of those teams, especially early in the series, because they got the legs?
That's a good question. I don't know, because you saw some teams that really took it seriously, and then maybe the Blues were playing a little cat and mouse, and they don't really care, and they'll roll Vancouver and they'll look like a bozo. But I guess that happens. We don't know until we see them. But a team like Colorado, I think they're all in. I think they took those games seriously. They did lose to Vegas in that last game in a tightly contested matchup. So I don't know. That's a good question, because Boston also didn't look the greatest, and I think they'll show up in the playoffs for sure. So I think you sort of got to look at each matchup a little differently as far as, were they showing it all, or were they a little sluggish?
When we previewed the playoffs a little bit, we all chatted about our favorite long shot bet to win the Cup. Jay, you love hyping up your Carolina Hurricanes bet you made. I decided to make my long shot bet the Winnipeg Jets. That sucked. Right now, sort of looking at the board of who the Stanley Cup favorites are, is there anyone lower down who you're looking at and circling and going, you know what, heading into the round of 16 here, that's a team I like?
Yeah, well, I think Carolina is a really smart play. You know, they're so well-rounded, and Sebastian Aho racking up 8 points in 3 games. Like, they're so talented, and their defense is tremendous. Like, they have so many underrated names that just they've got 6 good defensemen, although Jake Gardner, I'm a Leafs fan, so we can just sort of take him for what he is. But the big question mark for me is the goaltending. But Mrazek, if he can get hot, you know, he's a team that he's a goalie that could carry a team. He's just one that, oh man, that's the one part that scares me about their lineup is goaltending.
You mentioned you're a Leafs fan there. I had an interesting conversation today with someone, chatting about the Oilers, and they're like, well, wouldn't you rather have them lose in 4 games than have the heartbreaking Game 5 loss? And then they reference the Leafs and the crazy comeback, sends it to Game 5, then it's just such a letdown in Game 5. Would you have preferred that they don't make that comeback in Game 4 because then you don't have the stress? Because to me, I'm like, no, I want those memories of like wild playoff nights where you're celebrating and slamming beers because your team scored 3 in a row. Would you rather have the crazy comeback and the letdown in Game 5? Or would you have rather it had to just end in, rather unceremoniously in Game 4?
Well, I think it's just so typical of Leafs to pull off something so great, and it's like, okay, finally we're going to get over the hump. And then just to Zach Werenski, who was injured towards the back half of that game where they made the comeback, I thought he was out. And then, of course, he's the first one that scores. He scores the game winner, the first goal of the game. And right then, as a Leafs fan, when that sort of thing happens, I was like, it's done. I knew we weren't coming back. Even though it was 1-0 early in the game, wasn't a big deal. The fact that it was Werenski that scored that goal, I knew we were toast. So as a Leafs fan, I've seen it all. I remember the last playoff lot, or like the last time that they won a series, and then they lost to Philadelphia double overtime. Of course, Darcy Tucker hit Sammy Kapanen, Kasperi's father, caused him to scramble to the bench. Jeremy Roenick comes off. Clapper, bar down, double overtime. Leafs haven't won a series since. So that's still burned in my memory. So everything since, I watched the Boston collapses, everything. So the fact that we made that great comeback was exciting. It's the best moment in Leafs playoff history recently, but it was just so typical for them to drop it in Game 5.
Yeah, no kidding. I had one more for you here. We talked about the Stanley Cup odds, and you said Carolina. From a strategy perspective, so right now, I'm looking at them at 14-1, and I think that's kind of the range they're usually in, right? So a $100 bet for those listening that don't know, a $100 bet would turn into $1,500 in that sense. Couldn't there be a part of you with strategy that goes, well, the Canes have to win 4 series? Would it maybe be smarter in some instances to just put $100 on them to win the first series and then keep rolling over the profits if you actually think they're going to win the Cup? Like, are there some instances where that could actually put you out ahead of where you would be versus just betting on them in futures?
Yeah, it would definitely depend on the matchup. But like right now, so for Boston, they're plus 125. So lay 100 and get 125 back. So you'd have to get some pretty sizable series prices moving forward. So I don't think it would work for Carolina. But a team like Vancouver, I'm trying to do quick math while I'm looking at the lines. I'm trying to do quick math. Like Vancouver would be a team that you could probably employ that strategy and turn out as a profit.
Or even for like a big favorite, right? Like someone who's maybe only 6-1 to win the Cup. Like if you're rolling them over on all their series, even if they're favorites, like you might find a way to get an edge there.
Yeah, well, like again, the best one if you're going to go with that strategy. So let's say right now the Colorado Avalanche have the best or the shortest odds with Vegas at plus 550. But both of those, so Vegas is minus 340 over the Hawks, and Colorado is minus 300 against Arizona. So there's absolutely no value in betting those. So you'd have to lay $300 to profit 100. Just not worth your time. So what you hope for is that Chicago or Arizona wins game one, because then the odds usually they cut in half. So then you'll get Colorado at like minus 150. Then it becomes worthwhile at a much better price. And it's tough in the bubble though. Things get a little wonky because when you get that home and away split, you'll see one game loss, and then you'll see their line go from a minus 200 to a plus 210, and you're like, well, I'll take them now. So I wouldn't bet anything over minus 200 on a series price, but I would look for, if there was a matchup that I really liked, I'd hope that they lose game one and then try to snake them the next game.
Is there a point on, I mean, not just a series bet or a futures bet, but in general, where you'll look at a game and go, like, where's your line for betting on a favorite? Where you go, you know what? It's just, no matter how much of a favorite they are, that's not really worth the risk.
Yeah, especially in hockey, because, we can, any team can beat any team any given night. I'll go up to minus 180 unless there's, as a Leafs fan, if there was something that Ottawa or something coming to town, I'm just going to hammer the Leafs just for the fun of it, because I don't like Ottawa and I don't like Montreal. So, in those instances, I might get a little crazy and it will bite me in the ass, but I guess that's just part of the fun.
Scott,
I'm a big bet with your heart guy. I know that's the worst gambling strategy there is, but I know no other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Scott, we're really looking forward to having you on. For everyone listening to the pod right now, we're going to have Scott on every single Monday. So our DMs are always open. If you have a question that you want us to fire his way, if you got some betting questions, feel free to reach out and ask them. It's going to be fun talking to you every week, Scott.
Beauty. Thanks for having me, guys. And I look forward to a future talk.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Later.
There you go. That's Scott Hastings from Oddsshark on the Real Life podcast. And Wanye dipped out, but he left two good degenerates at hand here to handle that. That was a lot of fun there. I think it'll be interesting to kind of follow this sort of stuff and follow the lines a little bit closer as we keep cruising through.
Oh, absolutely. And it's even just like, I kind of like the strategy of just like wait for game one to go by to try to get more value on the rest of the series. I think that's smart, because now, like, I'm going to try to bet smart now that the Oilers are out. I'm going to try to take my heart out of the game. I've got a little bit of house money, so I want to make some bet on some horses here and see where it can go and try to get some joy out of this, what now is going to be disappointing playoff season.
The one area, and this is maybe a chance for me and you to bet with our heart and with our brain a little bit, the Dallas Stars are not very big favorites over the Calgary Flames. And that surprises me, right?
That is supremely surprising. I know, like, wasn't Dallas like kind of on a tailspin near before COVID? Like,
yeah,
like,
a little bit.
What's driving that? Because they should be a weapon.
And yeah, like you just look at that team, like Ben Bishop between the pipes can win you games. I don't know how much longer Cam Talbot can keep being this good, but yeah.
Because what do they have? What's the series odds? Oh, they've got Dallas is minus 115.
Yeah, like, to me, that's just I'm going to jump all over that.
Yeah, that's basically even money. So that's not bad at all. I'm kind of...
Columbus is a huge underdog too, and I'm a big Jackets supporter. I like my Jackets, man. And plus 185.
It's worth just putting something on it just so you did it. Like, that's one where I'd put like $10 on. Or whatever. Right? Just so I did it, and if I lost, I don't care, and if I won, it's like, sweet. Now what? But like, if I'm a little like, Tampa's going to be pissed off. Now, Stamkos hurt.
Stamkos and potentially Hedman.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. Plus 150. Maybe we'll sprinkle a little on there. I still think Carolina's just going to fucking roll, and I think that's good value too. Like, I don't know. I have no idea where Boston's at, but Carolina is just a hot pistol. I'm definitely sprinkling some on there. Still got them with my cup bet. And then, I don't want to get too degenerate and bet on every series, because you could lose a lot of money that way. I'm just going to pick a couple. and just kind of admire some hockey during this time. So I just got to think which one. Yeah, I kind of want to bet against Calgary for the sake of doing it.
The two series I'm going in on, I'm picking Dallas to beat Calgary, and I'm picking, I'm with you, I'm going to put a little bit on Columbus to beat Tampa Bay. Bet with my heart a little there. But I'm also going to put some on Carolina to win their series. I think Boston kind of looks a little bit discombobulated right now, and I like those odds. Carolina at plus 115. I could see them beating the Bruins.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing is, I'm also going to put. So now I'm going to pick my. Normally, I like to pick 4 cup favorites, and I did that going into the pre. I'm going to pick a couple more here and think about who I'm going to go with. Oh, it's the best. It's too easy. It's like a video game. Next thing you know, I've made 20 bets, and I'm like, shit.
Right now, the big favorites on the book I use: Colorado and Vegas are plus 600. Tampa Bay, Philly are plus 650. Boston's plus 900. And then the Blues and Capitals are 11-1.
Caps at 11-1. That's not bad.
Yeah, the goaltending worries me a little bit because you either have an aging Holtby or you have Samsonov, who's rather inexperieused. But I mean, Holtby's done it once.
Playing? He's hurt. Samsonov's hurt, isn't he?
Oh, is Samsonov still hurt? I thought he was going to come back. We should do our research, and then that can be a topic on Thursday. We can talk about our series bets. We'll get into it with Bag Milk as well, who's a newfound sports bettor. So that'll be fun.
Oh, is he ever?
Oh, man.
He's one we have to keep a close eye on that guy. We got to keep him. We got to reel him in because he is. Thing is, he's going wild on props. That's crazy.
Hilarious. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Real Life. That was a ton of fun. Every Monday, we'll be chatting a little bit of gambling towards the end of the pod, so stay tuned for that. Send us questions if you got them as well. Big Brother talk is back. Yes, the Oilers are out, so we're all sad, but we're still going to have a ton of fun on the Real Life podcast. Jay, thanks for an hour of your time.
Thank you.
And everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 203 of the Real Life podcast presented by JAPA Machinery.
Great job on making it through the entire hour of the Real Life podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from.